Good morning. Welcome to Up with KREM. I'm Nicole Hernandez. We want to start with Regan Gallo, who is in for Jenny Power this morning. Regan, we're under a weather impact alert, right?
Oh, yes, weather impact alert, but it really kind of depends on where you are. So happy Friday, everyone. I am excited to get our day kicked off. As you can see right now at Coeur d'Alene, it looks like a beautiful morning. A little bit colder, though, than what we're normally used to this time of year. But that weather impact alert mode is for a freeze warning, mostly actually in central Washington, as well as in North Idaho in the Lewiston area. And actually, in the last hour or so, we've gone from 31 degrees in the Spokane region to 31 to 30, tongue-tied this morning. So that is what we are in. So be careful as you are heading outside. If you're driving around, especially in Grand Coulee, Ephrata, Moses Lake, Lewiston area, it's going to be a little slicker outside. However, we do have a weekend warm-up ahead. We're going to see sunshine, colder in the mornings, but nicer in the afternoons, and 70s looking forward to Monday. So we just have to get through Friday in the cold before some sunshine is ahead.
Thank you, Regan. Let's take a live look at traffic now. We're looking at I-90 and US 2, where we're not seeing any traffic at this point. I'm loading up our traffic maps showing our entire region, and pretty much everywhere looks like this. So if you're heading out the door, don't expect anything major in terms of traffic.
Thanks for coming. I prayed and prayed that this would be big.
Well, that was last night out in Spokane Valley, the vigil to remember the life of Lewis and Clark student, 17-year-old Carter Cochran. More than 100 people were there. His grandmother says he was tender-hearted and had his whole life ahead of him. Cochran was in crisis when he and a driver got into a confrontation. The driver eventually shot and killed the teenager, but the driver is not facing any charges as of right now. A new Washington law that establishes certain requirements to be a sheriff or police chief is getting pushback from the very people it applies to. KREM 2's Christian Garza was in the courtroom yesterday for this lawsuit's first hearing.
3 motions were heard before the court regarding this suit. The first motion made by the plaintiffs was to shorten time, essentially compressing that legal timeline to make sure a decision would be made as soon as possible. The second motion was made by the state to move this suit entirely to Thurston County, where a similar suit filed by the Washington State Sheriff's Association challenging the law is being heard. This motion was to avoid multiple rulings in multiple counties across the state. And the third motion was made by the plaintiffs to enact an emergency injunction for these 4 sheriffs when it comes to being asked to follow this newly signed law when it goes into effect at the end of the month. The judge granted motions 1 and 2 to shorten the time and move the suit to Thurston County, but denied the motion for the reasoning behind the emergency injunction, since the case in its entirety will be heard in Thurston County. Judge Adam Wessler from Lincoln County said while he understands the sheriff's request for the injunction, his hands are procedurally tied.
I'm not here to decide whether it's a good policy decision. I'm not here to make my decisions on the basis of whether I believe it is or is not a good policy decision. I don't enter into that. I look at the procedure that needs to be followed, and really in this instance, whether this is such an emergent event that I have to decide it today. And I don't believe that that is the case.
There isn't a set court date at this time for this suit specifically, but a court date for the suit between the WSSA and the state is set for May 1st. In Newport, Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
The Spokane man who lit another man on fire in downtown Spokane back in September of 2025 was sentenced to 16 years in prison. A jury found Dupree Meadows guilty of first-degree assault last month. Court documents and trial testimony show Meadows walked up to a man in the downtown Spokane viaduct, doused him with gasoline, and lit him on fire. Meadows was also sentenced to 36 months of community custody and told never to contact the victim. China has issued a travel warning for their citizens with plans to travel to the U.S. They say specifically to avoid flying into SeaTac Airport. The Chinese ministry sent out that safety alert yesterday. It says 20 Chinese scholars were denied entry to the U.S. at SeaTac. They say Customs and Border Patrol agents put them through, quote, unreasonable questioning. The ministry says the students were traveling on valid U.S. visas to attend an academic conference. They say this has now repeatedly happened at SeaTac. Former Washington Governor Gary Locke, who also served as the U.S. ambassador to China under the Obama administration, says this is very unusual.
The fact that they were given the visas with the approval of the State Department in Washington, D.C., and then to be turned away at the airport makes absolutely no sense and raises a lot of questions.
CBP says they could not confirm the denials. They said, quote, without specific dates, it is difficult to determine. Have you asked the Chinese government when it allegedly occurred? End quote. Looking ahead to Monday, it is April 20th. That's known as 420, which is a number associated with marijuana. Washington State Patrol is reminding people not to drive high. Just like other drugs, WSP says marijuana affects driving ability and puts everybody on the road at risk. They say if you plan on getting high on 420, to have a plan like a designated driver or call a rideshare.
So we are in that weather impact alert mode until about 8 a.m. this morning for our region, mostly central Washington and parts of North Idaho. But colder temperatures are seen everywhere pretty much this morning. 30 degrees in Spokane, 36 in Moses Lake, Moscow 30, a little bit colder in Sandpoint 32, Colville 26. So as you're getting out on your day, make sure you bring that coat outside. Be careful because we do have that freeze warning, so it might be a little bit slippery. However, things do start to warm up as we kick off our weekend. It's going to be chilly in the morning, so that heavier sweater or sweatshirt that you can then layer up and take off later. But it's going to be beautiful. Sunshine Sunday, Saturday, and even higher on Monday. So lots of opportunities to get outside.
Tomorrow is going to be the Spokane Bike Swap. It'll be at the Spokane County Fair and Expo Center. Starts at 9 a.m. and then goes until 4 p.m. You can sell, purchase, or donate new or used bikes. Tickets for admission are going to be $7 online and $10 at the door, and then parking is going to be free. And new at 6 this morning, Idaho drivers can get a special America 250 license plate. Here's what it looks like. As you can see, red, white, and blue with the flag in the corner there. The new plate, you can get it either at the DMV or online. And of course, this is all to celebrate America's 250th birthday this year.